know, it's been a long time. I firstly want to apologize. Anyone who knows how INFPs are, we're very bad with staying consistent with things. I am no different. So there will be times I'll just drop off the face of the earth and not make any contact for a long time and then just randomly come back, especially when I feel social pressure to do it. But I'm here. So after being with my INTJ for 7 years, I figured I would want to go along and tell you guys what it's like. Yes, we are married, and yes, it is amazing. It is amazing. He's an amazing person. I can't imagine him not being in my life. Even just imagining it makes me tear up just imagining hypothetical scenarios with him not in my life. It's stupid, I know. But for those of you who have not seen the previous videos, you're just coming in, how we started, I'm an INFP female, he is an INTJ male. We knew each other online first and met each other in person, but we were kind of working together, and the first instance I have with him physically is him ignoring everybody. He was very grumpy, he was very cold, very uninterested, and just a dark cloud. And for some reason, that attracts me. I don't know why. People who are more introverted than me usually attract me. People who are more extroverted than me usually, I get along well with them, but I go running for the hills as well because it becomes a little bit too much. And me trying to socialize with someone who's more introverted than me, I end up becoming a little bit more nervous, extroverted. It's a very weird thing. I talk way more than I should, like I feel like I'm doing now. And I might be a little inappropriate at times. And I remember one of the first things he told me this, I only remembered after he told me. Maybe I blacked it out because I have a really good memory, so that was an embarrassing moment for me. Crossing the street in New York, didn't know him from Adam, total strangers, and I just looked at him and I put, oh god, the embarrassing, oh Jesus Christ, why am I sharing this? Okay, I put my hand on his stomach and I said, "You remind me of my father." Fucking hell, why would I say that? Oh my god, it's so embarrassing. Saying it out loud. Oh my god. And he said that was he said that was the first interaction he had. Okay, anyway, moving on. So we crossed the street. I'm so red right now. We crossed the street and I used to just call him like these weird nicknames and he did not look very amused. Okay, moving on. It's super embarrassing. Anyway, he was dating someone else at the time. I dated someone else at the time. I always thought he was cute. I was like, okay, whatever. But I would never say anything. And then, fast forward a few years, we were working in the same company, but it was mostly online, and he was going through a breakup with that person he was with for 10 years. He's only had 2 girlfriends, and, well, he's had 3, but the first one didn't really count. And the first one cheated on him, and then the second one that was for 10 years, or sorry, the third one that was for 10 years, she decided to just leave, because I guess he wasn't moving fast enough with what she wanted. And it was a cultural difference thing, and I guess there was some kind of disconnect there with her wanting the family and all that, and he wasn't prepared for that. Someday he'll share you the full story. I don't know why I'm so nervous right now. I'm super nervous, but I'm trying to be as honest as possible. Anyway, I was actually supposed to talk to him. He was one of the founders of the company. I was supposed to talk to him, but I ended up talking to the other person and started dating that person, who was an ENTJ. And that fell off, and I started connecting with my INTJ. And even though the relationship was over with the other person, it was kind of awkward because we all knew each other. And I was giving signs, I guess, that I was into this person. And the person who I dated before was like, yeah, I think he likes you because every time you're not around, he brings you up all the time. Like, I wonder what so-and-so thinks of this. Does so-and-so does this? Like, Allie. You know, does Allie do this? Does Allie do that? Yeah, we should ask Allie. You know, and it was just very awkward, and he said, this is so awkward. The guy I was previously dating was like, yeah, very weird. I've never heard him act like that. Like, never heard him actually look vulnerable like that. And then, honestly, like, he and the other guy, who I think is an ESTJ, pointed it out, just jokingly. And after they did that, my INTJ was stuttering, like, what? Like, he was just so... Based on what I hear, he was caught off guard. So I guess from then on, he tried to kind of hide that. And then eventually we started playing games online. We played MMOs with his friend as well. And then I started hanging out with him and his friend and another INTJ girl. And the INTP best friend that he had was starting to instigate stuff. And he got me, oh my god. He got close with me and he had a feeling that I liked my INTJ. So he got me in a private conversation. Oh god, my husband's. I think he just came inside. He's gonna try and listen to what I'm saying. So the INTP got me in a private conversation, and he was like, yeah, so what do you think about so-and-so? So I'm like, oh my god, no, I don't want to say anything because you're his best friend. You're going to go back and tell him. No, I won't tell him. I'm so stupid. Somehow in my subconscious, I knew he'd go back and tell him. But at the same time, I wanted to gush, and I had no one to gush to. So I'm like, you know, well, he's kind of rough around the edges, but he's so hot, and he's so... Oh, god, here it comes. Okay, sorry about that. He's in his office. This is so unprofessional. Like, you know how we do. Alright, so anyway. He was getting me, the INTP was getting me to say all these things, how I felt. And then later, I discovered that he was recording me, which I had a feeling he was, but I'm like, nah. Or maybe subconsciously I wanted to tell my INTJ, but I didn't want to tell him directly to his face, because that's embarrassing. I'm reliving it. That's why I'm embarrassed now. But he would never say anything to me either. So the INTP, his best friend, was like, well, you never know. He's a big softie on the inside. So he would never say anything. So after a few months now, we were playing a popular MMO, and we were in a Discord chat or Skype chat or something. And I said, hey, can I talk to you in private? Because I knew that he was more introverted than I was, and he would never tell me how he felt. So, I mean, he would ask me questions about myself or show concern or try to do things for me. He would do everything that made me know that he liked me, except for coming out and saying, hey, I like you and I want to be in a relationship. So I pulled him to the side digitally because we were online. And I said, hey, it took me a while to say it, but I confessed to him how I felt. And I said, I like you. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, because usually around this time, like, you know, you're growing up, this is the time where you blah, blah, blah. And he started saying something really analytically weird, and I think that he just missed what I was saying, and I was like, hey, no, I mean, I have feelings for you. And the only thing he responded with was, oh. Okay, I thought he was talking to me. Anyway, so he says, wow, I'm very flattered. You're kind of out of my league, you know, so such and such. And because we were technically working together and he was technically sort of kind of my boss, he was like, well, you know, I have to keep this relationship professional, you know, and that, I felt like that was a rejection, but I understood. And I'm like, okay, that's understandable. I shot my shot, you know, whatever. And then immediately after he says that, I'm not even lying, like 30 seconds after, he starts asking me the most unprofessional questions. It's like he was trying to convince himself or something. It was really cute. It was so cute. It was like 12 o'clock at night. And he's like, we gotta be professional. So, why are you attracted to me? What made you like me? Oh my god, I feel so stupid, but I'm just reliving it, and it's so adorable. And then he just puts me through what I can only explain as some kind of interview, where now that I guess he knows that he likes, like he knows that I know that he likes me, and I have, sorry, I'm shaking. Okay, calm down. So now that he knows that I like him and I have voiced that, and he knows for sure, then that gave him the go-ahead to start chasing, and he started asking me all these questions, like, what are my political beliefs? What are my beliefs? Would I want kids? Do I want this? If hypothetical scenarios, if I did this, would you do this? And blah, 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 blah. And I was answering him honestly about what I felt, because just like him, as an INFP, you don't want to waste time. Like, we're very spastic with our love, but if we show that we love you or we show interest in you, it's because we've had interest in you for a long time. As I've said probably in other videos, there was another INTJ that I liked, and we were going to school together, and we were good friends, and he and I hung out all the time, and I liked him for years. And it's only after we reconnected on Facebook that we admitted to each other, I think, is I admitted that I had a crush on him, but he was flirting with me when we started, but I didn't even realize it until afterwards. And I admitted to him that, yeah, I had a crush on you, you know, and he's like, I had a big crush on you too. I'm like, you're a lot more brave with flirting than you used to be. He's like, I grew up. And I guess because of his environment of being forced into social situations and us having history, he was like, well, let me just make a move now. I did end up cutting him off because even after he knew I was married to my current INTJ, you know, comments that were kind of inappropriate. I don't totally blame him for it because I should have stood up more and said, hey, stop. But I don't like confrontation and making people feel odd. Anyway, all that to say that it does take a while, if at all. That's why people usually joke around and say there's not a lot of INFP, INTJ pairings, because of both of them are usually too introverted to own up to them liking each other and will just stare at each other or be friendly, and neither of us will say anything. And I had to bite the bullet that day and put all my fear aside. I was shaking, my blood was hot, my face was hot, like I felt like the whole world was going to cave in on me. How terrified I was just to admit to my INTJ that I liked him. After that initial thing in the interview went by and we asked each other questions, we were sort of kind of dating, but we were long distance as well. And he would pay for me to come and see him in another state, and we would talk on the phone every day. He would call me every day, Skype every day. We would do things on video all the time. We would watch movies together via TeamViewer. Like, he always had things for us to do. He wanted to make sure we stayed connected. And nearing the 1.5 year mark, you know, because we did go and see each other, he's like, look, I financially can't keep this up, and I need to know where this is going. Because he saw a pretty girl, and it made him realize, wow, I have a girlfriend, I can't do anything because she's not here. And I know that sounds kind of mean to some people, but I understand where he's coming from, because I've also been in a similar situation where if you're dating someone long distance, it doesn't make sense that you have people there, opportunities there, and your life is being wasted away because you hardly ever see the person. Of course, unless that's something that works for you. So I was very, very upset, and all I heard in that moment was, hey, I want to be with other people. So I cried and I said, you know, I love you and I understand. And he sounded very sad as well. And I said, I'm going to go. And he's like, okay. And I don't know what he did on his end. I didn't really think to ask him even now, but I thought about it as I sat down, and I called him back and I said, you know what? I'm going to look like an idiot for doing this, but I love you. And I want to fight for you. I believe you're a good person and we're good for each other, and I want to be with you. I want to make this work. However, we got to make it work. And he says he wants to make it work too. And he says, but you're going to have to listen to me. And I said, okay. So he made all these plans about what to do. And one thing I did not concede with is giving up on my business, which I'm glad that I didn't, because it ended up being a very good financial source for us. And he even conceded as well that it was good that I didn't listen to him in that regard. But he told me, you're going to have to get an extra this because the money that you're making isn't coming in fast enough for you to make the moves away from your parents. And did all that, moved in with him, stayed away, and we had our ups and downs. We had situations that were tumultuous because of his past experiences and him being betrayed and him not having both feet in the relationship and me feeling betrayed because of that. But we did come together and work through it, and once he realized I wasn't going anywhere, that I wasn't one of those people, he did make a lot of changes to fix that, because he decided, yeah, you're in it for good. And sometimes, like, I don't know, it depends on how mature the INTJ is as well. And the person who he was years ago is not the same person he is now. So that was the dating side of it. He also became a lot more kind. I remember when we started dating, certain things, like there was a situation with half and half. It was so dumb. And I understand where he's coming from, but the emotional outrage that happened as a result just completely did not fit the situation. And I told him, look, okay, I'm going to replace, you know, he said, hey, go in the fridge, eat whatever you need, you know, whatever. So I had some of the half and half. There was like a little bit of half and half left, barely enough. So I had some of it. And I told him, hey, I'm going to go out and get some more half and half because I used the last of it. He blew up on me. Why would you drink the last of rare? I'm like, whoa. I literally just said I would replace it before you even needed it. You use it in the mornings. Like, and I'm not the kind of person that would go out and just eat people's food, which is ironically what he does to me, even now while we're married. You'll eat something that's been sitting there that belongs to me. But in that early part of the relationship, it's clear that there are certain things with INTJs that just turn other people off, that could send people running for the hills, because socially they're not very tactful with certain things sometimes, and that's something that doesn't come naturally to them, so they have to learn that as they through experience. If you're someone staying with them and talking directly to them and saying, hey, you kind of overreacted. Like, I did tell you, you told me to make myself at home. I did that. And out of courtesy, I said, I'm going to go, personally, me, and go buy you a full half and half. You didn't have any left. You barely had any left. I'm going to buy you a full one to replace the little bit that I took. So there was a whole spiel with that. And that's how he started off his thing. He was very selfish. But now he's the kind of person that will always share everything with me. Always. Like, do you want some of this? Do you want some of that? Like, he had to learn a lot of things. And even through marriage life, after we got married, it just bloomed from there, because he's the kind of person that talks about his future and plans, and he's always talking about plans, and it's beautiful. He still chases me to this day, and I love it. We complement each other so well. In the day-to-day living, we play games together, we watch movies together, we have a routine. I at least said, hey, we have to have our schedule on the same schedule. We'll never see each other. And we'll have routines where we'll watch certain shows together and then talk about certain things. We talk about politics, philosophy. And for an INFP, we hate small talk. So if someone is talking to us about topics or hypotheticals or theories or movies or sci-fi, stuff that we're passionate about, oh my God, that is like brain porn for us. We love that stuff. That's one thing I love about my INTJ. I can always talk to him about that stuff and get different perspectives, because he's more of the judging sense of the type. I'm more the perceiving. So we always clash with certain things. There's certain things he is tried and hard and fast on. It is not easy to change his mind when he's made up his mind about something, and he will do everything to argue his point. Whereas my point will be swayed a little bit easier. Like, I'll watch certain people that I don't agree with, but if they give me a point that I've never considered before, or I don't know, I'll be like, you know what? I can see where they're coming from. Even though that person is someone I don't agree with on a whole, I can see where they're coming from. I'm willing to concede. I'm willing to accept that this person is different, and that I can still learn from this person regardless of me not agreeing with everything they say. As opposed to him, if he knows that person represents something as a whole he does not stand by, it is very hard for him to even give them credit for one thing that they may say that's right, because for him, it is like saying the person is trying to be dishonest by saying certain things in their argument. So if we're talking about vegans, for example, if a vegan says, hey, well, you know, look at our teeth and look at our guts. Based on our structure, we were not naturally designed to eat meat in the amounts that we're eating it, if at all. And my husband is like against veganism at all. Like, it's like, I'm open to it and I understand. I just don't like people bullying other people into it. That part I don't agree with. But I can appreciate the reasoning behind why they do it, because I also love animals, but I also understand why we need meat, because we evolve that way. But I can also see where the vegans are coming from. His thing is, because of a lot of vegan activists coming out and bullying people, he doesn't want to concede to anything at all. Because he says, whatever you give them an inch, they take a mile. And if you accept this part of it, then you have to accept all of it. And I have to try and tell him, no, you can accept one thing one person is saying. And it doesn't discredit you or what you believe. You can just say, okay, I can see where they're coming from with that. But with him, it's very hard to do that. If that person is 90% what he disagrees with, he is very skeptical about the 10% of something that they might say that is right. So that's an interesting dynamic for me, because I do not like I love with art stuff as an INFP, where we're talking about things, we're agreeing with things, you're meshing with people, you're vibing with people. Oh, we love that. But for me personally, I also love having different perspectives. I don't understand in this day and age right now why people want to just have an echo bubble where everyone just says exactly what they believe. That's kind of why I left religion. It feels very cultish. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It just feels very cultish when people are 100% this way and not willing to listen to anything else the other person is saying. And the other person's 100% this way, so anything that person says, even if it makes sense, you don't want to admit to it or give them credit because you don't like them as a whole. I think it's kind of stupid, but I do like having different perspectives. For me, getting new information or new perspectives or people with different viewpoints, especially as someone who's a writer who has imaginary friends and likes making up new characters, oh, I eat that stuff up like candy. I love it. I love getting different perspectives. It's one of the reasons why I love writing too, because I can use characters that can argue points. I can argue with myself in my head. I know I sound like a crazy person, but I have imaginary characters that have different personality types. I have ESFPs, I have ENTJs, ESTJs, like all my characters have different personality types, and I've written down each of them. And whenever I'm talking to my characters in my little parallel world or special world fantasy thing that I live in, apart from this one, I know it sounds insane. Trust me, all INFPs are like this. But I have these hypothetical scenarios where I will say something and my imaginary friends will argue with me and challenge me, and we'll start fighting, and hours will go by of me imagining this in my head, and I will be socially tired from having an argument with myself. But that's the kind of stuff that feeds me. I love that kind of stuff. So being with my INTJ, he really gives me that, at least from that side of things. Sometimes it can be tiring because it's like, okay, sometimes I'm just sharing stuff with you, not because I want to fight, literally just sharing information. And you're taking it as a debate, and then he'll get very heated and passionate. what you see in certain shows of INTJs being cool and collected, that is not always the case. Okay, for one thing, I have seen other INTJs that will be cool and calm and collected. Most of them that I've met, the ones I've dated, they're like that, to a point. Then if there's a part of the argument that they vehemently disagree with, or that you're not understanding them, or you're not listening to what they're saying, or they feel as though you're not getting their point of view, or that you're being stupid for the way you think, you'll see them get very emotionally mad. They get so mad when they're like, to the point where they're just like, no, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I'm like, bro, we're just having a conversation. Like, they will get so mad. Like, INFPs do that sometimes too, but sometimes if I'm in that mode, I'm aware that I'm in that mode, I will be passionate about something too. But I won't get angry over it unless the person is being willfully ignorant. But I'm just, like, if I try to ask them a different way or something, the INTJs will just blow up and just shut down. Like, it's hilarious, it's kind of cute, but it's kind of frustrating as well. And then you have to kind of bring them back and say, hey, we're just having a conversation. Yes, but we had this conversation already about the same topic, and now you're asking me again. No, the reason why I'm asking you again is because I got new information. So now I'm presenting the topic that we talked about before with this new information that I got, so we can revisit it again. And that drives him nuts. And then I guess he calms down and he realizes, okay, so as I was saying, just like I said before, it's cute though. It's cute. It can be frustrating, but it's only frustrating for an INFP if you're all up in your feelings. You know, like, if you're not the one who's emotional, this other person's emotional, you're like, okay. But it can be also frustrating in the sense that when you just want to have a conversation with them. Like, because right now, both of us don't have friends outside of the people online. We're very private people. So we literally only have each other to bounce off of. And I told him that directly. I'm like, babe, you're my best friend. You know, I can't always run to your friend and talk to this stuff about this stuff. Like, we can talk to each other about things that we can't talk to other people about. Certain things about how we really feel about certain things, we can only talk to each other about that. We can't talk to people out in public because everybody is too concerned about hurting everybody's feelings. So and I said, you have to understand that I'm not trying to threaten you or you know, try to bring him back. So INTJs they do get emotional. They don't do it with strangers, but with people who they're close with, they will get very emotional. That's something that a lot of people don't realize with ISTJs and INTJs. Like, everyone thinks they're cold and calculating and emotionless. That is so untrue. When you start, like, getting intimate with one of them, oh my god. Like, it's a whole... Sometimes they're more emotional than you. The person who actually is predisposed to being super emotional. And if you're in one long enough and you're mature enough to know it's not coming from a personal place, like they're not trying to personally attack you, it just rolls off your back. So, as for the introversion portion of it, I find, through knowing my husband, that I'm more introverted than he is. There are times, like lately, where I'll imagine, like, fantasies in my head about me being certain characters or stuff. You know, he has his fantasy stuff. We share some of that stuff with each other, and we try to get too much into nitty-gritty details because nobody's business. But yeah, we try to connect on that level in certain ways. But my way is in my head. And sometimes I'll just want to lock up in my room for 3 days straight and just be in another world in my head. Just a whole story that nobody else gets to read. I just live through that experience in a different world as a different person with a different person in my head. And when I'm like that, I don't want to be bothered. It's very private. Like, I've always done that since a kid. I've always just vibed in my own world, and it's my way of processing and escaping. And every time somebody interrupts that, you'll put on some music, you'll imagine you're living through this whole movie in your head, and there's a whole arc, there's several seasons. You INFPs know exactly what I'm talking about. You got your character arcs, you know, that's why a lot of us draw, because some of those characters are from the ones that we made up. And you interact with those characters, and every time someone interrupts that, you're just like, oh, leave me alone. Like, I can go days without needing to see anyone. He needs to go out and see that there's life. He doesn't necessarily want to socialize with other people, but he wants to see that there's other people around. I personally do not give a damn. We live in the forest now, which I'm very grateful for. If I never saw another person again, I would not care. I would not notice. That's literally how I am. And the funny thing is, our INTJ friend, who's a girl, she feels the same way as me. And she was like, I don't even think your husband's truly INTJ, because he's saying that he needs to be around people. That could also be his culture growing up in his family. He was used to having a lot of people around. He was used to living in an apartment area where there were lots of people and lots of noise. I've never lived that way. I've never liked living like that. I was a little bit more sheltered, and my mommy and daddy just always had a cul-de-sac. There was a quiet area. It's only when I moved in with him where it was like, it wasn't even a big city. It was like a smaller town, but still a lot of people, like 400,000 people, and living on a sidewalk. I've never lived on a sidewalk before, and hearing drunk people outside 3 o'clock in the morning, having to pass by people waving to me and wanting to talk with me while I'm trying to take out the dogs after I just woke up, after going to sleep at 6 a.m. in the morning and trying to fake a smile. Like that mentally drained me. And I shared that in another video. But with him, it's normal. He's like, I don't care. As a matter of fact, I was the one that said that when we move, I want to get someplace with a lot of acres, like 20-something acres in the middle of the forest where there's no neighbors. So if even people build up around the area that is highly rural, it won't affect us that much because we're tucked away deep in our literal own forest. And he did that for us. And now he's like, okay, now that we're here, I like this. I understand where you were coming from. I'm like, really? You couldn't understand it before? So that's how our introversion is different. Also, this video's getting long. Also, he tends to bother me a lot more than I bother him. Like, if I'm excited about something, I'll share it with him. But if I realize he's starting to get like, oh, you keep bothering me, that will be my cue to be like, okay. Or I can pick it up in the way he responds or his look, and I'll stay away from him. And knowing that I don't want to be a burden to someone, I just will not talk to them. Not trying to be passive aggressive or anything. It's not like that. It's just me being aware of that, myself opening up and being a little bit more extroverted to someone, and them kind of rejecting that makes me want to shut down and keep to myself. It's just how I react to that kind of stuff. On the flip side, he always wants to come in and share something with me. And if I'm in the middle of working, I get distracted very easily. You can tell from the scatterbrained way I talk. When I'm writing, I'm not like that. But when I'm talking, it's very, very scatterbrained, all over the place. And I'll get distracted very easily. And it'll be hard for me to get back into the mode of working. So I'll start to get a little bit overloaded. And I'll want to take a drive, or I'll want to leave, and he'll feel sad because he thinks I'm trying to run away from him. And I'm saying, no, I'm not trying to run away from you. I'm trying to run away from all of it. I love our dogs. I love everyone. But I don't have a way to escape, and you keep interrupting that. I know a lot of other INTJs that have said that, yeah, my INFP just feels like she's shutting me out. It's not always the case. Not because they don't love you. It's not because we don't love you. It's just we just want to be away from you for a while. Because we just want to be in our heads. We need to be in our, we need to have that escape to recharge and to be truly alone. Like, we love you. We don't want to be lonely. It's very hard for an INFP to feel lonely unless it's like a breakup, right after a breakup. But we just want to be by ourselves. We live in a fantasy world in our heads. We're clowns. So we need to be able to go back to that world to eat the freaking beans and become clowns again. Okay, that makes no freaking sense. I'm sorry. Moving on. Is anything different in our marriage than it was when we were dating? He's more serious. I mean, he was before, but I think now he sees me completely as his family. He knows I'm not going to go away and leave him. We make plans together. Everything that he does is about the future, the future, the future, the future, the future. He's always thinking about the future. I also think about the future, but I'm in a place I know that is comfortable because I am able to think about the present and actually enjoy the present. Like, I only harp on the future when I'm unhappy and always wanting more. And I do always think about the future. I think about hypotheticals, situations, but I also find that I'm enjoying the present a lot more because I'm happier than I was where I came from. So that's how the 7 years have gone. It doesn't even feel like 7 years. It feels like we just got married. Because when he told me we got married this time, really? For 2019? That doesn't feel like it. We were together before that point. So that's, 7 years together. Living with him has been a breeze. Like, obviously we have our issues, but we complement each other so well that both of us stay inside most of the time because we're homebodies. We don't like people. Like, I love people, but I don't want to show people that I love them too much because then they end up sucking onto me and I can't get rid of them when I want to, and then it comes off like I'm mean, and I just want to avoid that altogether. So we've been avoiding that. It's very hard. It's very easy to do that when you live in the forest. So I'm very happy about that. But it has been amazing. Like, INFPs and INTJs, I think, from my experience, work together so very well. And you will have somebody who is a rock for you. Like, he handles most of the things. I make the money on the creative side. He makes the money with his programming. But he also is obsessed with new projects, teaching himself how to do things to save money, like landscaping, electrical stuff. He's renovating the house. Like, I mean, he's always working on something. It's like my uncle. My uncle's also an INTJ. Both of them are exactly the same. They're always working on a project in the house. This needs to be fixed. The previous owners didn't do this right. Look at this. Look at what they did. This is disgusting. Now I have to rip down the whole thing and do it the right way. You know, I have to get the materials for this. This didn't work, so I got to get this other tool for this. Our living room is filled with tools. Filled with tools and bits, and It's maddening. It's maddening. Like, one day he's stripping off the corner beads or something, whatever. The next day he's sanding the ceiling because we have textured ceiling. Then he's making a French drain thing because he found out that the water's kind of pooling in the area. So now he's thinking about a French drain thing. He's watching YouTube videos on it at this very moment as we speak. He's never on here because he's always busy. And he's shy. But it's amazing. I love him so much. Like, I don't think I can tell him enough, like, how I really, really, really feel. Like, and he gets kind of abashed because when I do try to tell him, he'll kiss me and he'll be like, I love you too. He's like, stop. And he'll feel all like he doesn't know how to handle that kind of compliment. But I don't know. Just, I feel like I hit the lottery with him. I really do. Like, I can't imagine all those heartbreaks that I had in the past. And I told him the same thing too when we were friends. I said, you know, one day you're going to find the right woman. Didn't even know it was going to be me. And all those heartbreaks that you had in the past are good because it weeded out the people you know not to look for. And that person ended up being him. So I'm really happy. And the other thing I do that works is, as an INFP, you were free spirits. I allow him to lead. He proved to me that I can trust him and he keeps me safe. So I am totally okay with being submissive to him. I understand that me not having as much experience as he has, I let him lead. And I love men who lead. I love men who are, this sounds so toxic, but I swear to God, it's not. Like, I like men who are a little controlling. I don't know. Maybe it's just how my biological makeup, but I like when I'm like squealing and like, oh, and the guy's like, no, I said no. Shut the fuck up. It sounds bad. It sounds bad. Hear me out. You know what I mean? But that, I guess it's preference, because that kind of shit turns me on. I'm like, oh, damn. Oh, okay, I guess. You know, it's, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. I never share this stuff with people, but I'm trying to be open about how my thought processes. You guys can't tell apart from me saying this, but it is really nerve-wracking for me to share this kind of stuff. Whew, so, that being said, with this long video, yeah, that's 7 years of an INFP female with an INTJ male. If you have any questions about our dynamic, you can ask. Just be aware that not everybody who has a certain personality type is going to be exactly the same way. I've met ISTJs and ENTJs that have a little bit different. They have the core mechanics for the way they naturally are, but a lot of their decision making, like the previous INTJ I was talking about that I liked and he liked me, and you know, we just didn't work out because we just didn't know. He is a lot more extroverted. He's still shy about talking to girls, but he has a different set of skills. I mean, the same skills, but he applies them differently based on his environment, if you know what I mean. So of course you're gonna have different experiences and different cultural stuff as well. My husband is part Latino, so he has the cultures from that, cultures from his Italian side, like, they clash. And maybe because being around a bunch of Hispanics as well, he has a more extroverted way of expressing himself. So it really depends, but it's nice to still know what the personality type is, to know how the person thinks, or what they're more predisposed to, so you can know how to approach the person, how to meld with the person, and how to keep yourself in check as well. Knowing that I can be direct towards him, it took a lot off my shoulders, because now I don't have to be roundabout. It's a little easier for me to share directly. Except recently, apparently, if you're in love with an INTJ and they're in love with you, and you're too direct, you can hurt their feelings. And there was something that I said to him. I was just being very direct with him. I'm not gonna tell you what it's about, but it was something personal. And I told him the truth, and I didn't see it as hurtful, but he was very hurt by it because of how I phrased it. And I'm like, really? I didn't think that would be an issue for you since you like being blunt, you know, like, that's why I said that. And he's like, yeah, but I have feelings, and the way you did this, it made me feel like, you know, you don't care, or that it's this, and even though that's what I know what you mean, just the wordage or the way you said it made me feel like this. And I apologized to him. It threw me for six, because I was like, really? That wasn't me? Like, but okay. How would you like me to phrase it in the future? And he told me, yeah, when you phrase it like this, you sound like those TikTok girls. That's what he told me. And I said, I don't watch those TikTok girls. They're cringe. So I don't know. I wasn't aware of that. I literally was using exactly the same words he used for himself. But when I use it, it comes across like that, or it reminds him of that, and so it triggers him that way. So I try to avoid using it in that fashion. And so there's other instances too where I've said things very honestly, like if, oh, you look a certain way, you dress a certain way, and he'll accept it. But there's some times where he'll just be like, wow, that was harsh. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Do you live with yourself? Do you hear yourself? But that was very interesting also to discover. I had to learn to be more thick-skinned when he said certain things to me, but he also, you know, when it comes to me, is a lot more thin-skinned with certain things as well. So that's another thing. Be blunt, but at the same time, have a bit of bedside manner with certain things, because they can still get hurt. They still have emotions, they're still human. They just don't show it all the time. To people, especially that they are not in love with. With people who they're vulnerable with, who their hearts are bared to, it's a bit different, apparently. Okay, that's enough talking. I'm getting tired. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. It's a lot more chill, a lot more laid back, a lot more podcasty, a lot more bare. If this is the kind of style that you guys like, sure, I can do more like that if you'd like. Please don't be mad at me if I disappear again for another few months. I'm telling you really, honestly right now, like INFPs are really bad at that. We'll have something and then we'll, like, this is how my mindset works. I'll literally see comments, where are you? And I'll get stage fright and I'll be like, oh no, they're expecting something of me, run. And that's how I felt when I was writing my novel and people started liking it. The stress and the knowing that people are depending on me and I'm expected to do this, that makes me run for the hills. I don't know why, it's very infuriating. It just, I know it's in the back of my mind, I have to do it, but because I know it's in the back of my mind and I have to do it, or there's an obligation there now I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean I'm never going to come back. And maybe there will be a day when I won't. I don't want to disappoint you. But I still hope, regardless, if that time comes or I die or something like that happens, that this will help some people, I guess. Alright, seriously now. I'm getting tired.